Welcome everyone to the 2015 Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte race review, where I recap what what's been going on in the past week, what went down tonight, and what we could see down the road. But before I get into the review, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, I want to say that I've not been feeling at my best tonight. So there's a chance that I might be struggling a little bit more to talk because more specifically, I have a sore throat. So I just want to get that out. My other thing I want to get out of the way is congrats to Juan Pablo Montoya on winning the Indy 500. It was one of the most exciting Indy 500s I've actually ever seen, and I was so happy to see Juan Montoya win the 500. There's not a lot of drivers that have won in F1, the IndyCar, and NASCAR, and there is definitely not that many drivers that have won the Indy 500 multiple times. So congrats to Juan Pablo Montoya, and congrats to Roger Penske on now winning the Daytona 500 and the Indy 500 in the same year, becoming the second owner to do that, and that is the second time that has happened. The first being Chip Ganassi Racing, 2010. Mick Roy wins the 500. Dario Franchitti wins the Indy 500. So yeah, I just want to get that out of the way. So those are like the two things that I want to say. But anyway, now let's get into. Well, actually, no. I just remember the pre-race notes is not what I'm going to say first. I'm actually going to give my overall thoughts on the race before I get into what happened in the pre-race notes. So my thoughts on the race. I thought that I actually enjoyed this race more than I expected to, because in the past, while I think I love the challenge that this race brings. I love how it's like a 600-mile race. It's just before Memorial Day, so it makes the race highly memorable. But this race, even when like the drivers that are my favorite, like are like dominating and winning, there's something about this race ever since I started watching it that has not completely satisfied me, or it just simply has not been that much fun to watch. And I felt like this race sort of gave me a little bit of what I think has been missing from my personal taste. So yeah, so that's like what the person's had to say. But my other thing I want to say here is that it felt great seeing two drivers get really great finishes when they've not had really the best season they can be having, and that is Carl Edwards, who won, and Greg Biffle second. And I feel like for both of these drivers, I think this can be a sign of great things to come for not only them, but their team as a whole. Joe Gibbs Racing and Roush Racing, which have not been, I feel like, as good as I expected them to be, and I think as good as they're capable of being. So I just want to get out of the way. But I also felt like that when he had surprising drivers finish up front, he also had some surprising drivers not get the best finish or run as good as they run. And when it comes to our two drivers that have won every other mile and a half race league up to this point, Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick. Johnson obviously had his issues with spinning twice, but Harvick, I honestly expected Harvick to be a little bit more dominant. I mean, the thing is, I thought the speed that he had in the All-Star race would carry over to the Coca-Cola 600, but it didn't quite do that completely, which surprised me. But anyway, trying to think of what else I want to say. I think for the most part, that's pretty much all I really have to say, or my thoughts about the race. But now let's get into the pre-race notes that I've written down. So after what I thought, I'm sure many NASCAR fans who watched the All-Star race last Saturday night, that was after a lackluster All-Star race, NASCAR definitely brought, NASCAR officials definitely looked into that situation and looking to find ways to sort of increase the side-by-side racing, which I feel like is definitely important. But I feel like especially at a track like Charlotte, and especially for an event like the All-Star race, because I feel like that's what most NASCAR fans want to see. And it felt great that NASCAR definitely pay attention to that, and they're looking to fix that, which I feel like at some point they will. I, I, I don't really know exactly why, and especially this season, like there was a lack of like intensity in side-by-side racing. I know some people in the blogosphere have been saying that NASCAR needs to apparently, I don't know if this is, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's like if you add more drag and if you add more horsepower, that could solve the issue. But to me, I kind of feel like that overall, no matter who you are, I don't think it's not just like easy to be like, oh, let's just take this out and put this back in, and there you go, voila. The problem is fixed. Obviously, this is the process. I feel like this is a process that definitely takes some time and definitely takes a lot of thought into the process of how can we make races like the All Stars better. And I feel like other than maybe the lack of side-by-side racing, there was also uh, reports of both NASCAR, the drivers, and I'm certain the fans, they want to see a race like the All-Star race start at an earlier time, because apparently on the East Coast, the All-Star race started, I think, after 9:30 or after 9, which I feel like that whether you live on the East Coast or the West Coast, that is definitely very, very late, possibly the latest starting race of the year. So yeah, and I also feel like that, like, and I remember watching an interview with Dale Earnhardt Jr. talking about how if a race like the All Star race was held during the daytime, the track would definitely be hot and slick, and that would cause drivers to definitely move around a little bit more. And I feel like that might actually not be that might actually be a good idea, because I feel like I would like to see definitely a daytime trial race, whether it is the Coca-Cola 600, the All Stars, or the Bank of America 500. And I think that would be something really cool. But I understand why they would have a race like the All Stars at nighttime, just because if they had it on the day, there wouldn't be really much of like a party celebration, like flashy lights and like high production driver intros and everything like that. But I think, to me, it's not exactly all about like the production and the money and like the attention. I think, to me, it's also about like the racing and like the excitement and the intensity. So yeah, but hopefully like NASCAR, hopefully NASCAR can definitely take these issues takes these issues into account, and maybe they can fix them sometime in the foreseeable future. But anyway, other news not relating to the All Star race is actually this does kind of relate to the All Star race. The 48 team, a couple hours after the All Star race, the 48 team was accused of possibly messing with the side skirts, which heading into this year, NASCAR made a rule that's like you cannot mess with the side skirts. And apparently, I was watching NASCAR races on Monday, and apparently Jimmy Johnson's crew chief Jack and now said that Jimmy Johnson and Logano made contact, which caused the side skirt to get back, to move. And apparently, the team was trying to fix that, and NASCAR apparently did not like that decision. And while Checkenhouse called it not a big deal, I personally, even though I am a fan of Jimmy Johnson, I don't really know what to really think about this. I mean, the thing is, if they just did it on purpose, and there wasn't any particular need to pull it out or put it back in, then it's like, yeah, the 418 deserves a penalty. But to me, if it was just repairing it, I feel like, if it was just repairing it because they made contact with another driver that wasn't on purpose, then yeah, the 418 does not get a penalty. And even though I've not seen like the blogosphere's reaction to this, I'm sure there's at least like one person being like, NASCAR, what the F did you just do? Why are you so inconsistent? You're gonna give this guy a penalty. You're gonna give this guy a penalty, but you won't give a 6-time champion a penalty. I'm sure that's like somewhere in the blogosphere. But anyway, I feel like NASCAR did the right thing in not penalizing Jimmy Johnson. And then also heading into this weekend, there were a couple of teams and drivers announcing possible plans, like Frontier Row Racing, especially after seeing the success they've had this year, their best career season so far with Marjorie Jr., second in points. Frontier Row Racing is possibly looking into getting a second car or a second team, and I feel like that could be in my opinion, I think that could really be good or bad, because to me they're not like Hendrick Motorsports where it's like, oh yeah, I can add another car and we'll be just fine. I feel like, and there definitely seems to be mixed reactions of like this could be a good thing or a bad thing. I I think I support the second car. I feel like that the team, I think, is definitely ready. Like I feel like that if the team added a second car in like 2007, that I feel like that would not have been a smart choice, because in a year like 2007 they were, I believe only a part-time team. But I feel like, I think Virtual Racing is definitely ready, and I think they have the capabilities of running a second car and getting that second car to run really well. And there definitely has not been any talk about possible candidates. I mean, I know Casey Muir, there are drivers like Casey Mears, where his contract with Germain Racing ends after this year, unless he renews it, or there's, and this is also on my previous notes. There's a little bit of talk about how Ty Dillon can run full time in the Cup Series next year. So those are just a couple drivers, and maybe there's some, or maybe Virtual Racing could bring a driver from like the Xfinity or Truck Series into that second car. So I feel like there are a couple of candidates available, but I feel like overall I support the second car, and we'll just leave him there. Speaking of Ty Dillon, he's apparently, him and Richie Childress are talking about getting Ty Dillon in the Sprint Cup Series full time next year. And my thoughts on that is that I I felt like that back in 2013 when Austin Dillon won the championship, and I wasn't mad that he won the championship, but to me, I think to hear that Austin Dillon was going to be racing full time in Cup Series, I had mixed reactions on that, and not because and not just because he was going to be in the number three. I just felt like it to me. I don't know if he was really that ready. I don't know if he was really that good enough to be in there. And the thing is, even though he completed more laps last year in the Sprint Cup Series more than any other driver, I still don't think that the Austin Dillon is really there. And I feel like, I don't know whether it's because of him or because of like the team overall not giving him like the best equipment on like Newman and Menard. But to me, I don't really think Austin Dillon is completely ready. I still don't think that Austin Dillon is really completely ready for the Cup Series, and especially not Ty Dillon. I mean, to me, I feel like that out of all like the rising stars that are coming up here, and drivers that could be stars in the future, I think that the Dillon brothers are, to me, the only two drivers where I think they are a little bit, as Kevin Hartwood had said, spoon fed. And I feel like the reason why I think that is just because I feel like they keep on moving up, but it's like I don't really know if they really deserve or are ready yet to be moved up. You know that they're, and the fact of Howard Childress is their grandfather, and he's an owner. But that's just my thoughts on that. I would personally not put Ty Dillon in the Cup Series. Definitely not next year, or maybe not even ever. I think the Xfinity Series, I think, should be a starting point as of right now. Uh, and there's also one other team and driver looking to maybe run full time in the Cup Series next season, and that is Wood Brothers and Ryan Blaney. And there's been talk about how the Wood Brothers could possibly return full time to Cup Series in 2016, which would be the first time since 2006 that the organization has run full time. And Ryan Blaney would be behind the wheel of all 36 races. I feel like I could realistically see this becoming a decision, and I would not be mad. I think it'd actually be great to see the Wood brothers, such a iconic team to the sport, return back full time. And I feel like for the first time in a long time, they have a really promising driver. They they have an alliance with Penske Racing, so I feel like this could really work. And I feel like Ryan Blaney. I think Ryan Blaney is one of my favorite rising stars coming out right now. Like, mainly because he's not like he is good most of the, he is good, and he gets you good finishes most of the time that he's in the Xfinity and Truck Series. And I feel like getting a fourth place at Talladega is not definitely easy to do. He got a top 20 at Las Vegas, and I feel like that if you did not have like the three engine failures at Daytona, Texas, and then tonight at Charlotte, I think he would had like a top 15 car, or definitely a top 20 car in my opinion. So I feel like Ryan Blaney seriously has a lot of potential, and I think I definitely support and would like to see Ryan Blaney be in the 21 car, and the Will Brothers to return full time to Cup. But anyway, also other big news is that, and this was announced on Thursday on Race Hub. Jeff Gordon announced that he will be part of the Fox Sports crew for the Spectator Series in 2016, going up in the booth, uh, sort of filling in for Larry Mack as Larry Mack gets is going to be in the Hollywood hotel with Chris Myers and Michael Waltrip, you know. And I kind of feel like that. There's definitely been some like mixed reactions of like, "Hooray, Jeff," but there's also been reactions of "Boo." Ask Fox Sports, what are you doing? You know, I feel like that. Obviously, it, I think it is. I think that definitely the trio of Mike Joy, Larry, and Darryl Waltrip. I think that's definitely a great trio, and I feel like it will definitely be different to see Jeff Gordon in that place and Larry down in the Hollywood hotel. But I think everything will be fine for the most part. I mean, to me, I don't see this as like the worst decision in the world. I think when Gordon covered it, Xfinity Series races, he did a solid job in those. It's not like Jeff Gordon was being like, here comes Eric Jones coming out of what corner is that? Oh, right, turn number 4. And who's that behind him in the 8 car? Oh, right, Dale Earnhardt Jr. You know, he wasn't doing stuff like that. So I feel like Gordon, in my opinion, I think, I feel like Gordon, I think he should definitely get the opportunity. I think he definitely, if it's Gordon's choice and if NASCAR and Fox doesn't mind Gordon being part of the crew, that then I'm all right with it. You know, so that's my thoughts on that. And then other news, trying to here. Oh yeah. Also, sort of minor news here. The windshields for all other drivers here have fallen soldiers' names, and they also have, and also Greg Biffle also made his 450th start tonight in the Coca-Cola 600. But anyway, now let's go to the track here. Matt Kenseth won the pole. Carl Edwards won the opening practice, and Kurt Busch won the two practice sessions on Saturday. And as far as Matt Kenseth, he got his first career win back in 2000 in the 2000 Coca-Cola 600. And Carl Edwards here, I was honestly surprised to see Carl Edwards win the pole because I felt like that outside of the 4 Gibbs drivers, he has shown the least amount of speed on these types of tracks. And Kurt Busch wasn't really much of a surprise, mainly because I felt like one, he has a lot of momentum, but 2, he was really good in the All-Star race when he won the segments. But anyway, after that long pre-race coverage, I don't know how long that is, but I'm assuming more than like 10 minutes. As I get a drink. Now let's begin what happened in the race. So Matt Kenseth over here, he got the pole, started on the inside, but right away he slipped the track, which opened the door for Edwards over here, and he actually led the first lap, but Matt Kenseth would get back later. And then already early, just like in the All-Star race, Greg Biffle touched the wall, but kept on rolling. And Greg Biffle, like in the All-Star race, started up front. And then just like in the All-Star race, very early on, most drivers were not able to make up too much ground. So if you started in the back, even if you were a driver like Casey Kane, you weren't really able to make up too many spots. But then eventually we would have a competition caution on lap number 25. And the reason for this competition caution is quite the interesting one. And I don't think I've really ever seen this before, or I don't remember it. Apparently, they were watching the surface up in turns 1 and 2, possibly because in the Xfinity Series race the day before, Jamie Dick blew an engine, and the fluid and smoke just went everywhere. So maybe that was the reason why they cleaned up turns 1 and 2. But anyway, we had pit stops in lap 27, and the one sort of interesting thing about the cycle of pit stops was because both Carl Edwards and Kevin Harvick were reporting of stickiness I think either between the throttle or the brake pedal, and apparently it must have been because of Coca-Cola. But one thing that I think Larry Mack said is that some teams do that to possibly give you a better grip on staying in the throttle. So that was one interesting thing I learned. But both drivers were able to get what they wanted. But also on this first cycle of pit stops, Brad Keselowski, who came out fourth, was penalized for removing equipment. More specifically, uh, the gas can fell out of the pit box when Keselowski was leaving. And I kind of feel like, to me, I actually think that really hurted Brad Keselowski throughout the rest of the race. Even though he was able to get himself, I believe I can say the top 5. I felt like that he would have had a better chance of being a winning contender if that did not happen. And also, Gianelli was penalized for too many men over the wall. Restart on lap 31 with Logano grabbing the lead. Dan Hamlin took second right here, and Dan Hamlin was catching Joey Logano a couple laps later. A couple laps after that, the All-Star race winner Dan Hamlin was leading. And by lap 50, Jokic Racing appeared to have turned things around when it comes to mile and a half racetracks, with all 4 drivers being inside the top 8. Oh yeah, by the way, I just want to get this out for those of you who don't know. This was Kyle Busch's first points race of 2015. Last week in the All-Stars, that was his first NASCAR race, just period, but the All-Star race is not a points race. This race was a points race. This was Kyle Busch's first points race and his first opportunity to get himself into the top 36. And if he's going to make the chase, he has to win. And also around this point, around lap 50, there were a couple of surprises with Austin Dillon in 9th place and David Ragan in 10th place. Both drivers would fade, especially Ragan, who apparently, even though I don't have it in my notes, I remember reading lap by lap coverage, and apparently Ragan had to go to the garage late in the race. And Austin Dillon would get a top 15 finish, I believe. No, 16th place finish. But anyway, just fast forward here a little bit. Kevin Harvick here, but by the time lap 65 rolled, he went from 4th to 1st in 9 laps. So Kevin Harvick became the new leader. And then we had a cycle of green flag pit stops began, and Keselowski, who had that penalty, let a couple laps, but then came down the road, and then Harvick regained the lead, and then Martin Truex Jr. here took second place a couple laps later. Caution number 2, Jimmy Johnson running in 13th place, spun in turn before, but doesn't hit anything or didn't get hit, so he would be able to keep his car rolling. And apparently, for some reason, NASCAR decided to penalize him. Now, I don't know if he got penalized for speeding coming in or speeding coming out, but to me, I felt like that penalty was kind of a weird penalty just because he had just spun. But anyway, we had pit stops in lap 91, and then a couple drivers took 2 tires, Logano, Dan Hamlin, and Austin Dillon. But Brad Keselowski chose to stay out. And then we had a restart on lap 95 as Joey Logano took the lead away from his teammate. And then Kurt Busch took the lead for the first time a couple laps later, and then Truex was back in 2nd place. And then in the first 100, maybe 200 laps, the 100 motorsports cars really seemed to be off their game right here, because the thing is, just past 100 laps, the highest running 100 driver was Dale Earnhardt Jr. in 7th place. And I don't actually remember if Rick Hendrick actually ever led. They might have, one of the 4 drivers might have led during a cycle of green flag pit stops, but for the most part, it was kind of a surprisingly not very great day for Hendrick Motorsports in general, especially since they've won at this track so many times with different drivers and have come close a couple times as well. And then by the time lap 115 rolled, the top 2 drivers, Kurt Busch and Martin Truex Jr., really distanced themselves from the pack. And then Kurt Busch here, and then a couple laps later, Kurt Busch would then start pulling away from Martin Truex Jr., giving him a big lead. Dale Earnhardt Jr. finally got himself up inside the top number 5 in third place by lap 130. And then AJ Allmendinger hit the wall for the first time in turn number 4, right towards the rear of the field. A couple laps later, caution number 3, Justin Allgaier smacks the wall in turn 3 and 4, goes to the garage. I think he would finish dead last. And then one time, and then by lap 138, 200 miles in the books, and we had 9 different leaders and 14 lead changes. And I think we would actually never. We might had only had like maybe 1 or 2. After that, we'd only have like 1 to 3 different leaders after that. So it was interesting to see how, in the, in the daylight there was so many lead changes, but in the dusk and night there weren't really. That was like one interesting thing that I'll remember in the weeks after this race. And anyway, we had pit stops of 139, then we had a restart on lap 142, and I kind of felt like that this was the moment David Ragan started going downhill when I started to see smoke come from that car. And the thing is, I knew it wasn't speed drive because the thing is, no one had blown up at that point. And also many laps later, Ryan Blaney became the highest driver that was not running for points in 11th place. So Ryan Blaney was having a good day, and then Joe Logano, as many of us have seen so far this season, this is the point race where Logano started to slide back, and he did. And then there was also reports of oil in turn number 3, but the thing is, NASCAR never decided to throw a caution, meaning that NASCAR probably never saw anything. And then Martin Jr. was closing on Kurt Busch, and then by lap 187, the whole track was in shade. We had another cycle of green flag pit stops on lap 188, and the Casey Kane, and then in the middle of the green flag pit stops, Casey Kane got caught for speeding, one lap down, but I think would get the free pass later on. And then Martin Jr. Took the lead from Kurt Busch after the cycle of green flag pit stops, and then Jimmy Johnson, who spun more than 100 laps ago, was inside the top 10. And the way things are going right now, it looked like Johnson could do what he did at Kansas 2 weeks ago, and that is have the cars sideways early in the race, and then he would possibly win. But anyway, caution number 4 here when Turbine hit the wall, and I kind of felt like that to me, this was maybe like a caution that if I was in race control would not have thrown, because to me it wasn't like Turbine. It wasn't like Turbine hit the wall hard. But anyway, pit stops lap 231, and then Ryan Newman was penalized for speeding, and I don't really remember where he was. I'm going to assume like top 15. And then we had restart lap 236, as Kevin Harvick, who restarted in second place, had some trouble, and then Kurt Busch took the lead away from Truex, and then all of a sudden, a couple laps later, at lap 239, Jimmy Johnson found himself in 5th place. And then for the second time, AJ Allmendinger hit the wall again, but this time in turn 2, and it was harder and longer, but NASCAR didn't throw out the caution. And then Truex Jr. was recatching the 41, not recatching, but catching the 41 again. Truex Jr. took the lead from Kurt Busch on lap 261, but I felt like what helped him get the lead back was because Kurt Busch had to check up from almost hitting the wall. And then a quick question that came out about 13 laps later when Jimmy Johnson, who was running in the pit position, spun in turn number 4, pretty much almost the exact same spot for like the exact same reason. Got loose, but this time right here he wasn't able to save the car as he spun coming up the road and hit the inside wall, and he actually hit a safer barrier that thankfully that was not there a year ago. So props to NASCAR for installing all of the safer barriers they have done since last October. And in his interview, Jimmy Johnson said that the next time they would have come down to the road, he said that they felt like they would have made the adjustments they needed to be, and after that they would not have made any more adjustments, which to me tells me that they weren't that far off from being a winning contender. And to me, that kind of sucked to see Johnson have that. But thankfully, he's in the chase. He has 3 wins, so he has nothing to worry about. But definitely something to think about once we get to the challenge round in October. because most likely Johnson will still be in contention. But anyway, pit stops lap 275, and then we had a restart lap 279, and then we had, I think, our only full wide moment of the race when Junior decided to go from top to bottom, and then Junior was on the inside, and then he had Kurt Busch and Carol Hark in the middle, and then Denny Hamlin on the outside, and then Hamlin was able to grab second almost after Junior got second. And then caution number 6, Ryan Blaney blows up running in, I believe, the 14th position. And the thing is, yes, he was actually. And the thing is, this was Ryan Blaney's third engine failure, and the Wood Brothers, their third engine failure in their 5 starts they've had this season. And the thing is, the only other time a car that had Penske engine blew up was Brad Keselowski in the 2015 Daytona 500. So to me, it makes me wonder, like, okay, I wonder what's different in the 21 engine that's not happening in like Brad or Joey or Michael McDowell, you know. So I kind of feel like that, and to me, because I think engine failures are fixable, I think whoever is making these engines really needs to solve those issues. Because to me, it's not like Ryan Blaney is pushing the limits. I mean, the thing is, he was just outside the top 10, not really racing very hard, not being like way too aggressive or anything like that, you know. But that sucked, because to me, I felt like that he could have gotten a top 15 and maybe even a top 10, you know. And as a Ryan Blaney fan, that was also upsetting. Lap 287 pit stops with some drivers coming in, but the thing is, the top 9 stayed out, and those 9 drivers were from first to 9th: Truex Jr., Hamlin Jr., Dale Jr., Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle, Carl Edwards, Jeff Gordon, and Paul Menard. Kevin Harvick was the highest restarter who pitted in 10th place. Restart lap 292, and then all of a sudden we started having new factors up front with Kyle Busch in 3rd, Greg Biffle in 5th, and Jeff Gordon in 7th. Kyle Busch actually took second away from his teammate Hamlin, and then Harvick was slowly able to make a grab. But the thing is, this was the point in the race where to me it seemed like that Harvick truly did not have as great of a car as he had on the other 2 Charles Leclerc tracks, which were Atlanta and Texas, you know. And then around lap 302, Tony Stewart and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Actually made contact a couple times. First, I believe, coming out turn 2, and then second turns 3 and 4. And that was kind of like the only like rivalry type moment we had over the course of the 400 laps. But then on lap 328, caution number 7, when Michael Annett spun off a turn number 2, and then we have pit stops. And then Hamlin won the race off pit road over Truex. Then we had a restart lap 333, and then Hamlin just started pulling away. But then a couple laps later, caution number 8 from debris from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. from hitting the wall. Stenhouse Jr. went into the garage for like a dozen laps, and then came back out. And then we had pit stops here from drivers towards the end. And for some of these drivers, that would be a winning decision. And then we had restart here on lap 342, and that would be the final restart of the day. No more cautions. And then Kevin Parker here, he got himself into second, but Martin Sheener took it away from Harvick. And then Harvick really never ever had the car to stay in tempo with Truex and Hamlin. So he started sliding back, and then fuel mileage started to become a concern. And then Denny Hamlin, lap 360, he's reporting a vibration, and then 4 laps later, lap 364, Denny Hamlin came down pit road, and apparently it was for a loose wheel, and apparently he was also reporting a migraine, which is not good, and hopefully Hamlin gets better for next week race at Dover, which is also going to be an extremely challenging race as well. Anyway, Truex Jr. had over a second lead over Harvick, and then we had a second cycle of green flag pit stops for the drivers that did not come down that last time by, and after and eventually our new leader would be Carl Edwards, a driver that wasn't really very much talked about. There are some people who I think even thought that he would be more of a contender throughout the whole entire race, being like a top 5 contender. But the thing is, throughout most of the race, he was stuck outside like the top like 10. You know, but the thing is, by the time lap 388 rolled by, the top 6 the top 6 drivers did not were 6 drivers that came down the road on lap 338, and they were all trying to save fuel. Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Eric Almirola, and Matt Kenseth from Ryan Newman. Those were the 6 drivers, and then with just about 6 to 7 laps to go, Greg Biffle was actually catching his former teammate Carl Edwards, but then all of a sudden, with just 2 to 3 laps to go, he started sliding back, which to me kind of, I don't know if Biffle had to like save fuel or Carl Edwards noticed Biffle and started driving even harder, or I don't know if Biffle got caught in like lap traffic. But to me, even though Biffle would eventually finish 2nd place, I think it would have been really like exciting or more exciting to see these 2 drivers battling really close, like battling like side by side for the lead. I think that would have been a cool thing. But anyway, coming off of turn number 4, Carl Edwards wins the 2015 Coca-Cola 600, his first Charlotte win, a points race to be exact. His All-Star win in 2011 was not a points race. His first win with Joe Gibbs Racing, his first top 5 of the year, and his 24th win of his racing career. So Carl Edwards wins the race, and as I said before, Carl Edwards has really not had as great of a season as I know he's capable of, and I felt like that, to me, this win, I think, tell a lot of us that, hey, Carl Edwards is a driver to watch out for this year. And I feel like that this win can help him and that team really turn things around. And next week at Dover, Dover is actually a pretty good track historically for Carl Edwards. I know he only has one career win, but the thing is, when it comes to drivers that have several starts at Dover, he has the 2nd best average finish. So definitely keep an eye out for Carl Edwards. But anyway, I guess now I'm gonna tell you, for those who don't know, who finished where. But anyway, so here is our finishing order. Carl Edwards won the race. Biffle in 2nd. 3rd place went to Dale Earnhardt Jr. 4th went to Matt Kenseth. 5th went to Martin Truex Jr. 6th, Ryan Newman. Brad Keselowski finished 7th. Danny Hamlin finished 8th. Kevin Harvick 9th. 10th went to Kurt Busch. 11th went to Kyle Busch. 12th went to Kasey Kahne. Logano finished 13th. Paul Menard 14th. Jeff Gordon 15th. Austin Dillon 16th. 17th went to Eric Almirola. 18th went to Chase Elliott. 19th, James Murray. 20th, Clint Boyer. 21st, Tony Stewart. 22nd, David Patrick. Casey Mears finished 23rd. 24th went to Sam Horse Jr. 25th went to Kyle Larson. Alex Bowman finished 26th. Terry Bain 27th. 28th went to Cole Witt. 29th went to AJ Allmendinger. 30th was Michael McDowell. 31st was Brett Moffitt. 32nd, Michael Annett. 33rd, Steve Gillen. Matt DiBenedetto finished 34th. Josh Weiss in the 35th position. 36th went to Alex Kennedy. 37th, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. J.J. Elliott finished 38th. Landon Castle 39th. Jimmy Johnson 40th. David Ragan 41st. Brian Blaney 42nd. Justin Allgaier dead last in 43rd place. And as I like to do, and as I now like to do, I would like to tell everyone who impressed me and who disappointed me. And I guess I might as well this time around tell who disappointed me or who I was sad to see the finish. Where I think, to me, I was definitely Ryan Blaney and Jimmy Johnson could have finished a lot more better than what they finished. But to me, Ryan Blaney had something that I think was out of his control and absolutely needs to be fixed. And Johnson was just fighting an ill-handling car all race long. And and for those and if you watch my All-Star race recap, last Saturday night or 2 Saturday nights ago. Uh, I said that ever since the repave, Charlotte Motor Speedway has really been a hit or miss track for Jimmy Johnson, but it just sucked to see that kind of finish, from him, because I felt like that he did not deserve that kind of finish. Uh, Drivers that also disappointed me, I felt like Austin Dillon both impressed me and disappointed me. At one point, Austin Dillon was actually inside the top five, but to me, I was honestly expecting just a little bit more or better than a 16th place finish, especially since he was coming from momentum from winning the Xfinity Series race yesterday. Logano, once again, I feel like that team really need both of the Penske drivers. I think really need to figure out like how to like close the deal. Like I feel like they're not in like any danger. They have wins, so they're locked into the chase. But to me, I feel like that if they really want to like get far in the chase and especially win the championship, they need to figure out like a way to stop the fading in like after like the first part of the race. So I feel like Logano was definitely a disappointment for me. McMurray was also for some reason I was expecting a little bit more of a better run from McMurray. He won the All-Star race and he's won at Charlotte both in 2002 and 2010. So I for some reason expected a better run from McMurray this time around. Sort of the same with Cooper, who finished 20th. I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a better run, especially since he was coming from momentum of finishing good in the All-Star race, but also winning the second segment in the showdown. And sort of the same for Kyle Larson. Now I'm going to go through who impressed me or who I was glad to see where they finished. Obviously, Carl Edwards for Great Beautiful second. Ryan Newman was to me actually a surprise, and it was great to see him finish in the sixth place. I also feel like that. I also feel like that for Chase Elliott, for this being his third career start, and for Chase Elliott not really having very much success in the Xfinity Series at Charlotte, I think an 18th place finish was a great finish for Chase Elliott. And drivers that also impressed me. I think that's pretty much it from the most part. Never mind. Never mind. How could I avoid this one? I think for Kyle Busch, with everything Kyle Busch has been through in the past couple of months, I think not only finishing 11th, but to me completing all 600 miles, that's an achievement and an accomplishment. And I feel like that. But obviously, I don't think he really deserved 11th. I really think he deserved the top five because to me, he had a top five car. And obviously, if pit stops and the cautions were a little bit different, I think they could have finished fifth or better. But anyway, that's pretty much everyone. That's all I really have to say about the finishing order. But anyway, next week we go off to Dover International Speedway, and I feel like Dover races, in my opinion, I think they can be really great or not so great. So I really think it just depends. I still remember how last year Johnson won the race, but to me also another big highlight was how McMurray. There was a piece of concrete that was kicked up, and McMurray actually hit the piece of concrete, which resulted in a lengthy red flag. But to me, I feel like that. Obviously, Jimmy Johnson is the logical pick, and I think I will pick Jimmy Johnson. But if I did not have to pick Jimmy Johnson, I would say I think Carl Edwards definitely has. I think Carl Edwards, especially coming off of this win, I think he'll have momentum. I think this is a race where Jeff Gordon, who, if you remember, won last September, I think Jeff Gordon could be good here. I think Matt Kenseth, I think we'll also have a good car, and I would definitely watch out for. And I kind of feel like that this could be a race where both of the Penske teammates surprise, and obviously don't count Harvick, even when Harvick does not get like a top two finish. Harvick will definitely have a car to reckon with. But anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say here. And the thing is, I don't know how long this race review is going to be. Maybe 40 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes, but I don't exactly know. But anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for watching this race review. Be sure to rate, comment, subscribe, and bye.